And then another place in Acts 2, in Acts 19:21, St. Luke writes, "Now after these events, Paul resolved in the Spirit to pass through Macedonia and Achaia, and to go to Jerusalem, saying, after I have been there, I must also see Rome." So again, this Jerusalem-Rome link is explicit. So, just seeing that verse, for the first time after reading it several times and thinking, wow, Christ himself said, go to Rome. So just kind of tucking that in my head and reading, in the Gospels with St. Matthew, where does he make Peter the Pope, in Matthew 16? It's right there by Caesarea, right? It's a Roman outpost, right? It's like our Lord is going to commission Peter as the first Pope. And they go out into nowhere, right? I mean, not nowhere, but they don't go to Jerusalem. They go to a Roman outpost, and outside the Roman outpost, he makes Peter the rock. And there's, again, a Roman connection there. So there's these interesting Roman connections. And then it's funny, the big breakthrough, and this is not unique, there's a great book called, I know you carry it here in your catalog, by Soloviev.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Vladimir or Serge? The Russian name.
But it was, I think, translated, or not translated, but it's got a foreword by Father Ray Riley.
That's right.
Yeah.
Soloviev is, I believe, the last name. It's called Russia and the Papacy, or something like that.
Right.
He makes a lot of these same connections along the way. And the really big one is in Daniel. In Daniel chapter 2, there's that famous vision of the statue or the idol.
Yeah.
And it has the golden head, and it has the silver shoulders, an arm, and then it has the bronze legs, and then the feet are iron and clay. Iron and clay. And in the vision, this giant stone comes from heaven, and it crashes into the feet of this giant idol, and it causes it to crumble. And this is a symbol, of course, destroying the idolatry of the nations. But it also says that that stone grows and fills the whole earth. So it's the coming of God's kingdom. And if you trace out those four kingdoms, the first one's Babylon. The second one is the Medes and the Persians. That's the silver. The bronze is the Greeks, and the fourth is the Roman kingdom. And so you would expect for the Messiah, or for God's great redemptive act, to happen in the time of the fourth kingdom, which is the Roman period. And that's exactly what we read in Matthew, at the time of, Augustus Caesar, a call for a census goes out. And that's why Joseph and Our Lady go to Bethlehem. So there's that Roman element. And then again in Daniel 7, it's basically the same prophecy, but you get four beasts. The first beast is a lion, the second beast is a bear, the third beast is the leopard, and the fourth beast is this terrible conglomerate of things. And in Daniel 7, it talks about how the fourth beast shall be as the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be greater than all the kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and it shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And this is no doubt a prophecy of the Roman domination, the Pax Romana, which took over all the way from Britain to North Africa, the Middle East, Spain, on and on and on. But then the Son of Man appears in Daniel 7, and he takes over that kingdom, and by extension, all the kingdoms of the earth. And it's a great messianic prophecy about the God of Israel adopting all the kingdoms of the earth. It's a Gentile message. So if you are a savvy Jew reading Daniel, you would see the Son of Man, right? This messianic, person that comes from the Ancient of Days, in the time of the fourth kingdom, is going to take over the fourth kingdom and use it for his purposes, right? And suddenly, you slap your forehead and you're like, the Roman Catholic Church, right? Jerusalem is not situated strategically to envelop all the nations over the whole globe. It's not. That's why God in his providence chose Rome, which is, it's the capital of the Gentile world. And this is why our Lord sends Paul and he sends Peter into the heart of the empire. And that's where they die. That's where they lay down their lives, their blood. And, Babylon, Rome is Babylon. It's a pagan, terrible, bad place that's Antichrist. But the blood of the martyrs, beginning with Peter and Paul, plants the seed. And over time, and then there's many, all those early popes are martyrs.
Yeah.
All those popes are just fertilizing Rome with their blood and uniting themselves with Christ in that, their own passion. And Rome eventually emerges as the capital.
If you see that Rome is the trajectory, the intended trajectory, it does make sense of a number of things. Even the condition of Judaism at the time our Lord chose to become a man. There's lots of times in history he could have chosen. He could have come during the Great Exile, when both Israel and Judah were under the controls of the Persians, the Babylonians.
Yeah.
I mean, God could have chosen that Babylon.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He chooses to send his son when Jerusalem is totally in the hands of Rome.
Yeah. Yeah. And St. Paul calls that the fullness of time. He was born in the fullness of time. And it's also as a Protestant before, you don't have the deuterocanonical books, particularly First and Second Maccabees. So you're reading the Old Testament, Israel, right, and then it divides, and then all of a sudden you get Babylonians, and then you get Persians, and then a little bit of Greek maybe, and then you turn the page, Matthew, and all of a sudden there's centurions and Pontius Pilate and Augustus Caesar and Roman tax collectors. How did this happen, right? How did we go all the way to Rome? Now, if you read First and Second Maccabees, this is very interesting. In First Maccabees 12:3, the Jews have finally got their independence from the Greeks, but they're a fragile kingdom. They're not strong. The Maccabees were mighty warriors, and they did a great work, and they got their independence. But like the early America, we needed allies quick, or we were going to lose it back, And where do they go? They send envoys to Rome, and their first ally is Rome. They make friends with Rome because Rome was kind of an up and coming, superpower, and the Romans were not getting along with the Greeks, and the Jews had problems with the Greeks, so they were natural bedfellows. And you see them kind of emerging and becoming friends and allies, and that's kind of where the true Old Testament ends. Is you read that Jerusalem and Rome are becoming allies to protect themselves from Greek. Then you turn the page and you realize the deal's gone wrong and Rome is dominating. Rome is now dominating Jerusalem.
Well,